So before people accuse me of defending this movie out of fanboyism towards the MCU, I'd like to preface by saying that I didn't like this movie very much, and find most of the recent MCU projects to be lackluster. With that said, it is near impossible for the critical drinker to criticize these projects without making insane criticisms that display political brain rot, for lack of a better way of putting it. Oh, and spoilers, by the way.
The movie begins with discount Black Widow, who's feeling sad and worthless because there's not much going on in her life outside of her work. And if that's not a neat encapsulation of modern feminism, frankly, I don't know what is.
I see we're already reaching for the stars to connect a simple character struggle to modern day feminism.
Anyway, after completing her latest mission to blow up a lab in Southeast Asia, she's sent by discount Selena Meyer to infiltrate a high-security vault in the middle of nowhere where an enemy agent is about to steal a bunch of classified secrets. Now, a normal person might think it's a bit suspicious that discount Selena Meyer apparently knows exactly when and where she's gonna get robbed, but well, I guess discount Black Widow isn't a normal person.
So I find this plot point a bit fishy as well, but not for this reason. What exactly is suspicious about the fact that Valentina has information on someone's plans? Doesn't she have access to spies or investigators that are supposed to gather this intel to begin with? Why would this be suspicious when this is likely how Yelena obtained intel from many other missions with situations that weren't orchestrated by Valentina? Drinker is about to make a separate point against this part of the plot that I don't really disagree with, so I'm not gonna bother playing it. You can watch the video for yourself if you're curious, but I think it'd be pointless to replay on here. And I want it to be transparent on that so it doesn't seem like he just only has bad points.
John Walker exists for no other reason than to be wrong about everything and constantly mocked and belittled by the strong female characters around him.
While I think more should have been done with John Walker's character, Drinker seems to be convinced that this is some kind of coordinated effort to bring down men to prop up women, except this movie makes a point to literally take shots at all of the characters in the third act, the women included. This is specifically relevant material that Drinker just seems to leave out, because it suits the narrative that this movie apparently has an agenda against men in favor of women. You see what I mean about how parts of this review is just political brain rot?
You know, like basically every other Marvel movie since Endgame.
Have you ever heard the story about the boy who cried wolf? Keep that story in mind every time you force in this ridiculous talking point whenever a new Marvel movie releases.
Bucky's here because they couldn't think of anything else to do with his character.
Oh yeah, Bucky, the guy who was presented in the best light and more of the authority figure over the Thunderbolts, kinda defeats the narrative you've established regarding the reason to have characters ridicule John Walker.
And for the life of me, I'll never understand why Marvel keep trying to make Yelena a thing.
You don't understand why Marvel wants newer characters to be compelling in their newer entries?
I mean, what exactly are we supposed to find appealing about this character?
You're supposed to find her trauma and her struggle to find purpose appealing. Whether you like the execution or not is one thing, but the idea that they shouldn't try to make her a more prominent character is ridiculous in itself. And acting as if they didn't try to do anything to make her appealing is even sillier.
She's basically a shorter, dumpier, less appealing version of Black Widow with a shitty Russian accent and played by a disinterested Florence Pugh who practically faxes in her performance.
She's a much different character than Black Widow, and the material she's in makes this very clear. I don't think you've paid much attention to either of their arcs if you actually think they're the same. He doesn't even explain his reasoning here, so what do I have to respond to?
Thunderbolts is a perfect example of what I hereby dub the Marvel cringe. Watching this movie, I was struck by this weird feeling of embarrassment. Not just for the people making slop like this, but for me as the audience. Watching a bunch of aging actors dressed up in their goofy outfits.
You've got a problem with goofy outfits? You mean like what we had in the original Avengers, one of the best MCU movies?
Reciting the hackneyed dialogue and the lame jokes, the physics-defying action scenes and the overdramatic villains.
Okay, explain the physics-defying action sequences. Is this something that violates the laws of the MCU, or is it simply unrealistic, yet fitting for the universe it's in? Because if I were to take your wording literally, Thor is the definition of physics-defying. And as for overdramatic villains, try to be more specific on that, because villains can be exaggerated for sure, but this isn't always a bad thing. This can actually be a great thing.
You know how much I sacrificed? Out am I? We'll meet again, Spider-Man! Leap! Think about it, hero! No one says no to me! Finish it! Finish it! We are who we choose to be. Now Shoot!
It's like watching a teenager who's still playing with action figures, or a woman in her 30s still listening to Taylor Swift songs, or a middle-aged man still going to nightclubs. All of them stunted, unable or unwilling to accept that the world around them is changing and it's time to move on now.
What are you even talking about? This is just complete meandering. Are we still reviewing a movie now?
The MCU practically defined the cinematic zeitgeist of the 2010s, and love it or hate it, you can't deny the enormous success it had, but that was a long time ago now. Times have changed and the zeitgeist has moved on, and movies like Thunderbolts now feel like dated, unfashionable holdovers from a different era, from a franchise that can't or won't accept that it just isn't that relevant anymore.
Okay, but you didn't explain what was dated about this movie or how it needed to progress moving forward. I'm not getting a whole lot out of your reasoning. There's not a lot of substance to what he says, and he often fails to explain himself. This pretty much covers the gist of what he's saying. He talked about some plot inconsistencies in the movie, and I can agree that they certainly exist, but he doesn't mention a whole lot of them, or at least enough to justify the story being bad. And he sandwiches those points with a lot of meandering or outright reaching for points against the movie. This is why I don't find these anti-woke YouTubers to be very compelling. They often have very little to say or just spew nonsense, which was especially apparent in his Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review that I also responded to. Watch that if you're curious. But that's all I gotta say. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you want more of these. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to share it as well. And yeah, that's all I got for now. I'll see you all later.